Okay, so let me start with a number, just one number, 11,600,011. 6 million ounces of silver, physical, real, tangible silver, left the Comex registered vaults in the last 30 days. Now sit with that for a second, because I want you to really feel the weight of that number before we go any further. That's not a rounding error. That's not noise. That's not some random fluctuation that you can just wave away. 11,6 million ounces. Gone. Out the door. In 30 days, and here's where it gets really interesting. April 1st notice day is literally 3 business days away. If you already know what that means, you're probably already leaning forward in your chair. And if you don't know what it means yet, don't worry, because we're going to break every single piece of this down today, step by step, in plain English, so that by the end of this video, you will understand exactly what's happening, why it matters, and what you should be watching for over the next few days and weeks. Because the math, and I want to be very clear about this, the math does not add up. And when math stops adding up in commodity markets, historically, one of two things happens. Either prices move sharply to fix the imbalance, or the rules of the game get quietly changed so nobody notices. Both of those outcomes are important. Both of those outcomes affect you, whether you're an investor, a saver, or just someone who pays attention to what's happening in the financial world. So let's get into it. Before we dive into the numbers, let's make sure we're all on the same page about what Comex actually is and why it's the center of the global silver pricing universe. Comex, which stands for Commodity Exchange, is part of the CME Group, which is one of the largest and most influential financial exchanges in the world. It's based in New York. And for our purposes today, what matters most is that Comex is where silver futures contracts are traded. Now, a futures contract is basically an agreement to buy or sell a specific amount of a commodity, in this case silver, at a specific price on a specific date in the future. Simple enough, right? You agree today that in 3 months, you'll buy 1,000 ounces of silver at, say, 28 an ounce. That's a futures contract. Here's the key thing to understand, though. Most futures contracts, the overwhelming majority, never actually result in physical delivery. Most traders are just speculating on price direction. They don't want a pallet of silver bars showing up at their front door. They buy contracts, prices move, they sell contracts, they pocket the difference or take the loss, and they move on. This is totally normal. This is how futures markets are supposed to work. They provide price discovery and liquidity. Nothing sinister about it. But, and this is a big but, the entire legitimacy of a futures market is built on one foundational promise. That promise is, if you hold a contract to maturity and you actually want delivery, the metal will be there. Full stop. That's the deal. That's what makes the paper price mean anything at all in relation to the physical market. If that promise ever breaks down, if you hold a contract, you want delivery, and suddenly there's not enough metal to go around, well, that's what market participants call a default, or a failed delivery. And in a market as important as silver, that kind of event would send shockwaves through the entire financial system. Now, I'm not here today to tell you that's definitely about to happen. What I'm here to do is walk you through the data, the actual publicly available Comex inventory data, and let you draw your own conclusions. Because the data, right now, is telling a very interesting story. All right, so to understand what's been happening, you need to know that Comex silver inventory is broken into 2 categories. This is crucial. Don't skip over this part. Category 1, registered inventory. Registered inventory is the silver that is physically sitting in Comex approved vaults and has been formally designated as available for delivery against futures contracts. This is the metal that the exchange can actually use to settle delivery obligations. If someone holds a contract to expiration and demands the metal, the exchange reaches into the registered inventory to fulfill that demand. Think of registered inventory like the ready cash in a bank's vault, the stuff that's immediately available, liquid, deployable. Category 2, eligible inventory. Eligible inventory is silver that is also physically stored in Comex approved vaults, but it has not been designated for delivery. It belongs to specific owners, often banks, institutions, dealers, or private investors who are storing it at a Comex vault for their own reasons, but they haven't offered it up for futures delivery. Think of eligible inventory like savings accounts or time deposits at a bank. The money is there, technically, but it belongs to specific people, and it can't automatically be used to meet the bank's obligations without those people voluntarily deciding to move their metal into the registered category. Now here's the important distinction. When we talk about Comex having enough silver to meet delivery demand, what really matters, what counts, is the registered inventory. That's the actual buffer. That's the cushion. And the registered inventory is what has been draining at an absolutely stunning pace. Okay, so let's talk about the numbers. Let's actually dig into what's been happening with Comex Silver registered inventory over the past month. Now, Comex publishes its vault inventory data every single business day. You can go to the CME Group website and pull this information yourself. I actually encourage you to do that. Don't just take my word for it. Look at the data with your own eyes. What the data shows is that over the past 30 days, approximately 11.6 million ounces have left the registered category. They've either been physically withdrawn from Comex vaults entirely, meaning someone took the metal and walked out the door, or they've been reclassified from registered to eligible, meaning the owner decided to pull their metal back from the available for delivery pool. Either way, the effect is the same from the market's perspective, that metal is no longer available to back futures contract delivery obligations. Now, let's put 11.6 million ounces in context, because numbers like this can feel abstract. One Comex silver futures contract represents 5,000 ounces of silver, so 11.6 million ounces is the equivalent of roughly 2 30-20 standard Comex contracts worth of metal walking out of registered inventory in 30 days, in dollar terms. At current silver prices, we're talking about somewhere in the neighborhood of 350 to 400 million worth of silver. Depending on where prices are when you're watching this, that number might be slightly different, but the scale is the same. We're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars worth of silver leaving registered inventory in a single month. And here's the thing, this didn't happen in a vacuum. This isn't an isolated event. If you zoom out and look at the trend in Comex registered silver inventory over the past few years, you can see a clear directional move. The registered buffer has been shrinking. Not every single day, not in a perfectly straight line, that's not how these things work. There are days and weeks where inventory bounces back, where metal gets registered. But the overall trend has been one of depletion. This revealed something important. Even if the squeeze attempt failed in the paper market, the physical demand it generated was real, and it put additional pressure on the physical supply chain that echoed for many months afterward. What does that tell us? It tells us that physical demand has the ability to create real-world supply problems even when paper markets appear calm. And right now, we don't have a Reddit mob creating the demand. We have structural